Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to yet another timely and uplifting video. Now, as all of you know, I'm sure because you're watching this video, you would know that there was a very bad mass shooting yesterday in Texas. Uvalde, I think is what it was, on the 24th of May, where I think the current count is 21 dead. Tragedy in every respect. But yet, it never ceases to amaze me how quickly this sort of thing can get politicized. And not to say that I'm not going to politicize it here today, because, well, I mean, you have to refute arguments somehow. But we'll go ahead and get started with our very own and loving President of the United States, Joe Biden, with his tweet here, which says, "These kinds of mass shootings rarely happen elsewhere in the world. Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Why do we keep letting this happen? Where in God's name is our backbone to have the courage to deal with it? It's time to turn this pain into action." What he's referring to specifically is, well, gun bans, really. It's not popular, given that there are probably, I would assume, probably at least a third of the country is a law-abiding gun owner. I can't imagine that would be a popular stance to take, and I can't imagine that any Democrat would really seriously think about taking that if they wanted to get elected again, depending on what state or district they're from. So, I just want to go through and let's see. These kinds of shootings rarely happen elsewhere in the world. And you know, that's not true at all. In fact, the United States has a low death rate per capita. Obviously, it's too high to begin with, but compared to other countries, it is very low. So if we look at this, and this is from worldpopulationreview.com, from 2009 to 2015, so it's not exactly current. It's about 7 years old, but as of the date of this study, the United States ranked at about 11, with a total gun death rate in mass shootings of 0.089 per million, whereas Norway had 1.888. Serbia, France, Macedonia, Albania, Slovakia, Switzerland, Finland, Belgium, Czech Republic were all above the United States. So you can't faithfully make the argument that these types of shootings rarely happen elsewhere in the world. I mean, I guess you could if the other types are more fatal and less common. But either way, I mean, the only reason that anybody would make this kind of argument is because nobody knows about the other mass shootings that happen in these other countries, because it's not publicized as it is here in the United States. All these other countries, I don't know about, Norway and what their gun laws are like, but a lot of these other countries do have very strict gun laws, and we'll see what good it does them, because people will like to use the UK and Australia as examples of countries which don't have the same level of gun violence as the United States, which, granted, they don't. But, I mean, those are two examples out of how many countries are there? Just under 200 countries in the world? So, that's not a good argument to make. A lot of people have been, and I don't have any tweets pulled up, but I've had a few tweets that have come across my timeline that have talked about assault weapons, and that's kind of the going narrative that a lot of people want to form policy on. Want to ban assault weapons. The term assault is very loosely defined. Nobody actually knows how to define it, especially when it comes to making policy. So if you go to Wikipedia, and this is the definition that most people are going to go by, but drawing from federal and state law definitions, the term assault weapon refers primarily to semi-automatic rifles, pistols, and shotguns that are able to accept detachable magazines and possess one or more other features. Some jurisdictions define revolving cylinder shotguns as assault weapons. So this is just about every gun that is not a bolt action. or any gun that's got a magazine that you can put into the weapon. I mean, that's pretty much, they're going to loosely define that as an assault weapon. So if it's got a rail on it that you can put, say, a tactical laser or a tactical light or maybe an optic on, you can classify that as an assault weapon. So what are they going to do? Like you could put a laser sight on a newer model Glock. Are they going to define that as an assault weapon? Well, there's no way they would ever get rid of pistols because, I mean, well, that just doesn't make sense. The semi-automatic rifles, the AR-15 is the bad guy. Now, this is coming from assaultrifles.org, and this is kind of how I would define it because it's a lot more specific. It's a lot more specific, and it more takes off of the definition for machine guns and assault rifles are closely related. But an assault rifle is a well-defined technical term. And again, this is from assaultrifles.org. For a rifle to qualify as an assault rifle, it must meet at least the following partial list of criteria. It must be capable of selective fire, number one, selective fire. So the difference between a machine gun and an assault rifle is that the assault rifle is capable of selective fire. So you've got semi-automatic, you've got burst fire, and you've got fully automatic. Machine gun should just be fully automatic. So there's where the two differ. It must have an intermediate power cartridge that is more power than a pistol, but less than a standard rifle or battle rifle. So this is going to be pretty much just your 5.56 rounds, your 223 rounds, which are pretty much the same, your 7.62, 30 caliber, things like that. So your 9mm should not be included in that, nor should like the 50 caliber 308 rounds. I don't believe 308 rounds would count in that, but you know, you can correct me on that if you want. And its ammunition must be supplied from a detachable box magazine. So if you're wanting to take action on assault rifles, then this would be a much better definition to go by because it's a lot more specific. Otherwise, you're going to be banning things like this, because typically a 22 LR right here, this long rifle, you're going to have probably a 10-15 round detachable magazine that goes up right here, and these two are pretty much the same. But nobody likes the look of this one. This one's scary and it's black. I don't know what it is about the society and being scared of black things, but here it is. So yeah, I mean, basically you're looking at if they're wanting to ban all of it, which again, I don't think they will, but if that is course of action that they wanted to take, they would have to include both of these, because as the current definition that most federal and state jurisdictions go by, these would both be included in the assault rifle definition. See where I'm going? Now, a real problem that I have with this tweet is that it invokes an emotional argument when a logical argument is what's necessary here, because emotions have no place in policy setting. So, for instance, they can use this angry tone, and they can use news stories framed in such an emotional way, showing pictures of the victims and showing pictures of the victims' families and people crying and all these other kinds of things to push certain things into action, such as universal background checks or red flag laws, which, by the way, background checks already are a thing. If you haven't bought a gun, try it. Just go out and try it and fill out the paperwork. Trust me, they're there. And some of you who think that you can just walk into a gun store and get one, I mean, it's possible you might not be able to. Now, some states are a lot more lax on that kind of thing than my state is, but I'll tell you this much. If you're talking about background checks, in this case it happened in Texas. This kid, he was 18 years old. So far as I know, no criminal history, no history of mental health illnesses. So in all cases, I mean, he would have passed all those background checks anyway. So the only course of action that you would be able to take in this current situation here is to just ban the sale outright. And is that going to happen here? No, of course not. Of course not. You know why? It's because most people in the United States, I believe, either one, own a gun, or two, support the ownership of guns. Or at least there's enough of them here that they wouldn't bother touching that kind of thing, because with what's the current number? I want to say it's close to 400 million, probably not quite 400 million guns in circulation in the United States. So if you think that you're going to come and systematically confiscate those or do a voluntary buyback program, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's no way. So, yeah, again, I mean, this is all just one big emotional plea, and it's just platitudes. That's all it is. This type of language, it's just political platitudes to get people to clap for you. And you can bet your ass that this is going to come into play whenever when we get into election season this year, because they'll say that come campaign season, they'll put out ads on TV saying that, oh yeah, Republicans have been blocking all of these efforts to be pushing forward on gun control and background checks and red flag laws and all of those kinds of things. And then as soon as election season's over, you won't hear anything about it. So of course they're going to ramp up this emotional language because people respond better to emotional situations and emotional pleas. The reality is that guns are more useful or more widely used in self-defense situations than in offensive situations such as homicide or any sort of crime. So according to this, American Gun Facts, basically, it's estimated that in 2021, guns were used in 1.67 million times per year in self-defense in the United States, as opposed to 45,222 people died in 2020 from gun violence, 54% of which are suicides. Really, this whole narrative that politicians are putting forward saying, oh, something needs to be done. Something. Why, by God, why won't anybody do something? What? Do what? What are you planning on doing with this? I'll tell you what, nothing. Again, it's just like I said. All this is, it's for election season. And you know what? It's pretty timely because people are going to start announcing their candidacy here pretty soon. So with that, I will leave it there. Thanks for watching. If you stuck with me this long, I really appreciate it. Go have yourself a good day. And remember, go pick up something heavy. Peace.